The community center's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry wasps as I sat in my car across the street, watching my family gather for what my brother called a healing reunion. Through the rain-streaked windshield, I could see the banners stretched across the entrance. The Morrison family, together again. But I wasn't inside. I wasn't invited. For 3 years, I'd been erased from family photos, excluded from birthdays, written out of the narrative like a character who'd served their purpose and been killed off. All because I'd dared to speak the truth about what Uncle Richard had done to me when I was 12 years old. Family loyalty, my mother had said when I'd first tried to tell her. We don't air our dirty laundry in public, Emma. Richard made a mistake, but he's family, a mistake. That's what 20 years of sexual abuse had been reduced to, a mistake that was somehow my fault for remembering, for speaking, for refusing to pretend it never happened. But 7-year-old Lily, my brother's daughter, didn't understand why Auntie Emma wasn't at family gatherings anymore. She'd been asking questions that made the adults uncomfortable, questions they couldn't answer without revealing the ugly truth they'd worked so hard to bury. Tonight was supposed to be Richard's triumphant return to family grace. He'd completed his therapy, paid his fines, and convinced everyone that he was a changed man who deserved forgiveness. Tonight was about moving forward, about healing, about putting the past behind us. What they didn't know was that I was here, watching, waiting for the moment when truth would finally have its day. The Morrison family had always been good at keeping secrets. We were the picture-perfect suburban clan, successful father, devoted mother, 3 accomplished children who made honor roll and played varsity sports. From the outside, we looked like something out of a Norman Rockwell painting. But inside our pristine colonial house, Uncle Richard had been systematically destroying my childhood for 8 years, from age 12 to 20. He was my father's younger brother, the charming uncle who brought presents and told jokes and made everyone laugh at family gatherings. He was also a predator who used his position of trust to steal my innocence piece by piece. When I finally found the courage to speak up at 25, after years of therapy and a breakdown that nearly cost me my job, I thought my family would rally around me. I thought they'd be horrified, supportive, protective. Instead, they chose him. "You're remembering wrong," my mother had said, her voice tight with the kind of desperation that comes from having your worldview shattered. "Richard would never do something like that. You were always such an imaginative child." My father had been more direct. "This family has a reputation to protect. Richard's running for city council. Do you have any idea what these accusations could do to all of us?" My brother David had tried to play peacemaker. "Maybe you misunderstood some things when you were young. Uncle Richard's a good man. He coaches Little League, for God's sake. Can't we just move past this?" But I couldn't move past it. I couldn't pretend that the nightmares, the panic attacks, the inability to trust man, the years of self-harm and destructive relationships were all products of my imagination. So I'd gone to the police. I'd filed a report. I'd pressed charges. And my family had closed ranks around my abuser, leaving me standing alone in the cold, branded as the troublemaker who'd destroyed their perfect image. The trial had been a nightmare. Richard's lawyers painted me as an unstable woman seeking attention, a troubled niece trying to destroy her successful uncle's reputation. Without physical evidence or other victims willing to come forward, it became a matter of he said, she said. He walked away with probation and community service. I walked away with nothing but the knowledge that I'd told the truth, even though it cost me everything. Through the community center windows, I could see the reunion in full swing. Tables laden with potluck dishes, children running between the adults, my family laughing and embracing like nothing had ever been wrong. And there, in the center of it all, was Uncle Richard, holding court like the beloved patriarch he'd always pretended to be. But I wasn't the only one watching from the outside. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I see you're here too. We need to talk." My heart stopped. Could only be one person, Maria Santos, the investigative journalist who'd been following Richard's case for months. She tried to interview me several times, convinced that there were other victims, other stories that needed to be told. I'd refused to speak with her. The trial had been traumatic enough without reliving it for the media. But now, seeing my family celebrate my abuser's redemption, I felt something shift inside me. I texted back, Where are you? Blue Honda, east side of parking lot. I found her car and slipped into the passenger seat, my hands shaking as I closed the door. Maria was younger than I'd expected. Maybe 30, with kind eyes and the kind of determined expression that suggested she didn't give up easily. I've been investigating your uncle for 6 months, she said without preamble. There are others, Emma. 3 other women have come forward since your trial, all with similar stories, all too afraid to speak publicly because of what happened to you. The words hit me like a physical blow. Other victims. Other women whose childhoods had been stolen by the same men my family was now celebrating. Why are you telling me this? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Because tonight isn't just a family reunion, Maria said, her eyes fixed on the community center. It's Richard's campaign launch party. He's announcing his run for mayor. And I think your family knows exactly what they're doing, rehabilitating his image by showing that even his accuser has been welcomed back into the fold. That's when I realized the truth. I wasn't here by coincidence. Someone had made sure I knew about this reunion, had counted on me being too curious or too hurt to stay away. They were using my presence to legitimize Richard's return to public life. The realization hit me like ice water. My own family was using me as a prop in Richard's redemption story. They'd probably planted all the accidental social media posts about the reunion that I'd seen, the casual mentions from mutual friends about how the family was healing. They'd wanted me here, watching from the outside, so they could point to my presence as proof that even I had moved on. I can't go in there, I told Maria, my voice breaking. I can't face them. I can't face him. You don't have to, she said gently, but there's something else you should know. Your niece, Lily, she's been asking questions, lots of questions, about why you're not at family events anymore, about what happened between you and Uncle Richard. My heart clenched. Sweet Lily, with her gap-toothed smile and endless curiosity. She'd been 3 when I'd been exiled from the family, too young to understand why Auntie Emma had suddenly disappeared from her life. What kind of questions? I asked. According to my source inside the family, she's been persistent, asking her parents, her grandparents, anyone who will listen. She remembers you, Emma. She remembers how much you loved her, how you used to read to her and play with her. She doesn't understand why you're gone. I thought about all the birthdays I'd missed, all the school plays and soccer games where I should have been cheering from the sidelines. I thought about the little girl who probably wondered if she'd done something wrong to make her favorite aunt disappear. They've been telling her that you moved away for work, Maria continued, that you're too busy to visit. But she's 7 now, old enough to know when adults are lying to her. Through the community center windows, I could see Lily in her pink dress, holding a microphone that was clearly too big for her small hands. Someone had given her the mic to say something cute for the family gathering, probably a rehearsed speech about how wonderful it was to have everyone together. But as I watched, something in her posture changed. She looked around the room with the kind of focused intensity that I recognized, the same expression I'd worn as a child when I was trying to solve a puzzle that the adults didn't want me to understand. We should go in, Maria said, her hand on the door handle. I have a press pass. I can get us inside as part of my coverage of Richard's campaign announcement. My stomach churned at the thought of walking into that room, of facing the family that had chosen my abuser over me. But something about Lily holding that microphone made me feel like I needed to be there, like something important was about to happen. Okay, I whispered, but I stay in the back. I don't want them to see me until what? I don't know yet. We slipped through the side entrance just as Richard was taking the microphone from Lily. The room was packed with family members, family friends, and what looked like local political supporters. A banner reading Richard Morrison for mayor hung behind the makeshift stage. Thank you, sweetheart, Richard said to Lily, his voice carrying that same warm, grandfatherly tone that had fooled everyone for so many years. Now, why don't you go find your mommy while Uncle Richard talks to the grown-ups? But Lily didn't move. She stood there looking up at him with an expression that made my blood run cold, not fear exactly, but a kind of wary assessment that no 7-year-old should have to make about a family member. Uncle Richard, she said, her small voice somehow carrying clearly through the crowded room. Where's Auntie Emma? The question hit the room like a bomb. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. People turned to stare at the small girl who'd just asked the one question everyone had been carefully avoiding. Richard's smile faltered for just a moment before snapping back into place. Auntie Emma is very busy with her job, sweetheart. She couldn't make it tonight. But she's never at anything. Lily persisted, her 7-year-old logic cutting through the adults' careful evasions. She wasn't at Christmas or my birthday or Grandma's birthday or Easter. Why is she always too busy for our family? I could see my parents exchanging panicked glances. My brother David stepped forward, clearly intending to retrieve his daughter and end this uncomfortable line of questioning. But Lily wasn't finished. She looked around the room with those bright, curious eyes, taking in all the faces of the family she knew and loved. And why does everyone get sad when I ask about her? She continued. Why does Mommy cry when I show her the pictures of me and Auntie Emma? Why won't anyone tell me the truth? The room was completely silent now, every adult frozen by the relentless honesty of a child who refused to accept their carefully constructed lies. That's when Lily did something that would change everything. Instead of handing the microphone to her father or Uncle Richard, she clutched it tighter and stepped closer to the edge of the makeshift stage. I know Auntie Emma is here, she announced, her 7-year-old voice carrying clearly through the stunned silence. I saw her car in the parking lot, the blue one with the dent in the back that she got when she taught me how to ride my bike, and I crashed into it. The collective gasp that went through the room was audible. Every head turned toward the back of the hall, searching for me among the crowd. I felt Maria's hand on my arm, steadying me as dozens of eyes found my face. There she is, Lily shouted, pointing directly at me with the kind of pure joy that only children possess. Auntie Emma, you came! But instead of running toward me like I expected, Lily turned back to face the room full of adults, her small face serious and determined. Why is everyone acting surprised? She asked, her voice cutting through the shocked murmurs. Why is everyone looking scared? Auntie Emma is family. She should be here. Richard tried to take the microphone from her, but Lily stepped back, holding it protectively against her chest. No, she said firmly. I want to know why everyone lies about Auntie Emma. I want to know why she can't come to our house anymore. I want to know why Mommy and Daddy whisper about her and then stop talking when I come in the room. My brother David was moving toward the stage now, his face flushed with embarrassment and panic. But Lily saw him coming and did something that stopped him in his tracks. Daddy, did you make Auntie Emma go away? She asked, her voice small but carrying clearly through the microphone. Did she do something bad? Because I don't think she did. Auntie Emma was always nice to me. She never yelled or made me scared like. She trailed off, her eyes moving to Uncle Richard, who was standing frozen beside her. And in that moment, I saw something in my niece's expression that made my heart stop recognition. Not of abuse, but of something wrong. Something that her child's intuition had picked up on but couldn't quite name. Like Uncle Richard does sometimes, she finished quietly. The silence that followed was deafening. Richard's face had gone white, then red, his carefully constructed mask slipping for just a moment to reveal the predator underneath. Lily, that's enough, my mother said sharply, moving toward the stage. Give Daddy the microphone. But Lily wasn't finished. She looked directly at me across the crowded room, her eyes bright with unshed tears. Auntie Emma, she said, her voice breaking with the kind of pain that comes from a child's broken heart. Why don't you love us anymore? Why did you leave me? And that's when I realized that my silence hadn't protected anyone. It had only taught my niece that love could disappear without explanation, that families could be broken by secrets too terrible to speak aloud. I started walking toward the stage, my legs shaking but my resolve growing stronger with each step. It was time to tell the truth. All of it. For Lily, for the other victims, for myself. What happened next would be replayed on local news for weeks. I walked onto that stage, took the microphone from my 7-year-old niece, and told the truth. All of it. The abuse, the cover-up, the family's choice to protect their reputation over their daughter's safety. I told them about the other victims Maria had found, about the pattern of predatory behavior that my family had enabled by their silence. I told them about the nightmares, the therapy, the years of healing that I'd had to do alone because speaking the truth had made me the enemy. But most importantly, I looked at Lily and told her why I'd been gone. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you, I said, kneeling down to her level. I left because the grown-ups in our family made a choice to protect someone who hurt me, and they thought it was easier to make me disappear than to face the truth. The room erupted. Some people left immediately, unwilling to hear the ugly reality behind their perfect family image. Others stayed, their faces cycling through shock, denial, and finally, horrified understanding. Richard was arrested that night. The other victims came forward publicly, their courage bolstered by seeing that someone had finally broken the family's code of silence. He was convicted on multiple counts and sentenced to 15 years in prison. My family fractured, but in breaking apart, it also began to heal. My brother David divorced his wife when she tried to maintain that I was lying. My parents went to therapy, slowly learning to process their own complicity in my abuse. And Lily? She comes to stay with me every other weekend now. We read books and paint pictures and talk about how families should protect each other, not protect secrets. Last week, she made me a card that said, "Thank you for coming back, Auntie Emma. Thank you for telling the truth." Sometimes it takes the voice of a child to shatter the silence that protects the guilty and imprisons the innocent. If this story moved you, if you've ever been silenced by family loyalty or institutional protection, remember this: your truth matters more than their comfort. Your healing matters more than their reputation. Subscribe and share this story with someone who needs to hear it today. There are survivors out there still carrying secrets that aren't theirs to keep, still protecting people who never protected them. Because sometimes the smallest voices ask the biggest questions, and those questions deserve honest answers.